Today on Till We Make It, it's a medical shallow dive. Let's talk about angiomas. I'm Mike Quackenbush, and this is Till We Make It, and I'm going to cover a topic that affects me and possibly you too. I am referring to angiomas, specifically one kind of angioma. The kind of angioma I'm going to talk about is the kind that occurs on the skin, not in the brain. And the angiomas that form on the skin usually occur in people over the age of 30. In fact, more than 50% of people over the age of 30 have at least one cherry angioma on them. It's red in appearance, and that's how it gets its name. 75% of people over the age of 70 get angiomas as well, and they can occur all over the body. And I happen to have one that's very noticeable. It's here, above my left eye. In the last couple of years, I've started to notice cherry angiomas popping up all over the place. I've got at least 4 on my shoulders, I've got 1 on my stomach, and this very visible one above my left eye. And there are angiomas, like the cherry angioma, which tend to be benign. But very quickly, I want to tell you about 2 types which are not, that you need to be on the lookout for. If you happen to have one of those kinds of red dots, just like the one above my left eye, on your body and it bleeds frequently, you need to go and see a physician about that. Additionally, if suddenly you see a cluster of them together appear at the same time on your skin, that might be an indication something is wrong with your liver. And again, you need to go and see your physician if one of those 2 circumstances describes the red angiomas that have just popped up on your body. The overwhelming majority of these innocuous red dots are caused by the incorrect termination of blood vessels or capillaries near the skin. And so they occasionally will occur far more often in professional wrestlers than they do with people from other occupational fields. So although the next time you see me, I'll probably be wearing this same t-shirt for continuity reasons, it will take place in the distant future after I've met with my dermatologist. Alright, so even though only seconds have passed for you, weeks have passed for me. I went to see my dermatologist about what we're going to treat my angiomas with. And in the past, there have been other methods of treating angiomas. You could, for example, have it cauterized on your body by putting an electrical current through it, and I know this firsthand. I had that done to one of my angiomas, and it was not very thorough, but was extremely painful. And another technique that they sometimes use is to freeze it with liquid nitrogen and then wait for it to fall off on its own. But while that's going on, you oftentimes end up with a really bizarre looking blister on top as that part of your skin is dying and falling away. But that's not what's going to be happening to me in a couple weeks. Instead, this angioma that I have, and in fact another one that's forming that they discovered while I was there having my checkup, will be treated with something called IPL, intense pulsed light. So if you're like me and you heard that and you thought, oh, they're going to shoot Mike with a laser, no, because that was the first thing out of my mouth and I was told that's not right. A laser is very focused, whereas IPL is far less focused. It's broad and deals with different wavelengths of light. And the light that they're going to treat me with is specifically designed to go after the hemoglobin, which is what left those red marks on my skin. When the capillaries or vasculature terminated incorrectly near the surface of my skin, it left behind just a little tiny bit of hemoglobin. That's why it's red in color. And the IPL treatment that I'm going to receive focuses for the color red and makes it slowly start to dissipate and break up. And then, according to them, over the next 10 to 14 days, my body will just naturally reabsorb that little bit of hemoglobin. It occurs naturally in the body, and the body will take it back after the IPL treatment is over. But I learned some other information I want to share with you about IPL. One treatment may not be enough to get some of those angiomas to break up. In fact, it could take as many as 3, depending on the size of it. And the one that happens to be over my eye is fairly large in size, whereas this much smaller one that they observed could probably be dealt with in a single treatment. Luckily, I'm going to be bombarded with all the wavelengths of light that I need to break up that hemoglobin. And while I feel certain that one treatment will probably be enough for the smaller of them, the bigger of them might require me to go back for a second treatment. However, they want to be very careful that they don't use a wavelength of light that's too intense for my skin type. And depending on what skin type you have, that's something you've got to consider. Because if the light they have to use needs to be intense, there is a small chance it can instead scar you and not entirely remove the mark. So there are several weeks to go before I'm going to be back at my dermatologist for my first go-around with IPL. And we're going to document all of that here on Till We Make It. So a future episode will pick up the story where we are leaving off. But I also want to give you this bit of valuable information. And I think I might have alluded to it in the chunk we filmed a couple weeks ago, which to you was just minutes ago. And that's this. This removal of the angioma, because it poses no health risk to me whatsoever, is considered cosmetic. And I did shop around. I spoke to 3 different dermatologists' offices about what the fee involved for undergoing an IPL treatment would be. And one treatment ranged in price from $250 up to $475, all of which comes out of my pocket. My insurance doesn't cover anything that's deemed cosmetic. And keep in mind, if they can't get the big one after one session, I might have to go back a second and hopefully not a third time. Each of those treatments ranges in price between $250 and $475, and it might be a little different depending on what part of the world you live in. But provided that the angiomas aren't clustering or bleeding ever, then they don't pose a health risk, and that means they will be categorized as cosmetic when you have them removed. So I fully understand what the risks involved might be. There's a slight chance it could leave some scarring behind. I might have to go back for more than one treatment, but I kind of made up my mind that I'm going to go through with it. I hate the way that the one over my eye looks. I am loving the idea of being rid of it, and I feel very confident after speaking to a couple different dermatologists that I picked the one that's the best fit for me. There is going to be that 10 to 14 day period of recovery where I'm fascinated to see how exactly is my body just going to go about reabsorbing this hemoglobin. Something tells me it's going to be way uglier than they made it sound in the office. But we're going to find out together, and it won't be long because we'll cover it in an upcoming Till We Make It.